Pearl of the Orient. That is what the world called your country. And for centuries, the most powerful empires on earth proved it by competing to control her. Spain came first, then Britain, then America, then Japan. Each one left a mark on your soil, your blood, your surnames, your faith. But here is what nobody tells you. The battle for the Philippines did not end in history books. It is happening right now, in 2026, in your seas, your economy, your politics, and your land. 10 countries have tried or are still trying to exert control over this archipelago. Number 1 on this list is not Spain, not America, not Japan. When you find out who it is, it will change the way you see your country forever. Before we count down, which country do you think is working hardest to influence the Philippines right now in 2026? Drop your answer in the comments right now. Stay until number 1 to see if you are right. Let's go. Number 10, Netherlands. They crossed half the world to seize Manila, fell short every single time, and still had the nerve to come back. According to Dutch and Philippine colonial historical records, the Netherlands launched multiple naval assaults against Manila throughout the 1600s. Their motivation was pure greed. The Dutch East India Company, the VOC, controlled the spice trade across Asia. Controlling Manila meant controlling the most valuable trade route in the world. Your country stood directly in the way of their profits. Here is what they actually did. According to documented Spanish colonial archives, Dutch forces pressured Manila's harbour in 1600, again in 1609, and mounted major assaults in 1617 and 1646. Their most serious attempt came at the Battle of La Naval de Manila in 1646, where their fleet of 18 ships was repelled 5 times by a smaller Filipino-Spanish force. 5 times. They never planted a lasting flag on Philippine soil. And here's the part that should make you proud. Your ancestors never picked that fight. They were protecting their home from men who sailed thousands of miles simply to get rich off their land. The Philippines never moved against Holland, never colonized a single country. Yet it bled to defend its shores, and it won. Imagine if the Dutch had succeeded. You might be wearing wooden klompen right now instead of your trusty tsanellas. Salamat naman. Your Lolo's generation knew that nothing beats bakya on home turf. Today, the Netherlands is a minor European trading partner of the Philippines. Dutch water management companies have worked on Philippine infrastructure, which is ironic. They could not take the land, so now they help drain it. But someone far older than the Dutch left a deeper mark. Their legacy is carved into the very surname you carry today. Number 9, Great Britain. They occupied Manila for 18 months. Emptied your treasury, promised Filipinos freedom they never planned to give, and left without a single apology. The year was 1762. Europe was tearing itself apart in the 7 Years' War. Britain and Spain were adversaries, and when Britain gained the upper hand, they hit Spain where it hurt most, its richest colony in Asia. A fleet of 13 British warships and nearly 7,000 soldiers sailed into Manila Bay and forced the city into submission. Your country had nothing to do with that conflict. It was simply caught in the middle. What the British did during those 18 months was deliberate and calculated. They emptied the royal treasury, one of the largest cash seizures of the entire colonial era. They invited Filipinos to rise against Spain, promising freedom they had no intention of honoring. Diego Silang of Ilocos rose up and briefly allied with them, then was betrayed and killed. His wife, Gabriela Silang, took up his cause and became one of the greatest figures in Philippine history. And here is a footnote nobody talks about. The British brought Indian sepoy soldiers to Manila. Some of them stayed, married Filipinos, and their descendants still live in Laguna and Cavite today. Your country never sent ships to London, never threatened a single British port. Yet it paid the price of someone else's European conflict, in lives, in treasure, in the courage of its people. And it endured every bit of it. Isipin mo na lang, the British left after 18 months, but Filipinos still make better fish. Ours is called Pritong Isda, and it wins every time. Walang debate. Britain today is a permanent UN Security Council member. Its positions on maritime law and the West Philippine Sea still carry real diplomatic weight in 2026. The next country on this list didn't stay 18 months. They didn't even land. But they nearly changed everything, just by parking their ships in your bay. Number 8, Germany. They circled your waters like a vulture in 1898, waiting for their moment to claim a country they had absolutely no right to touch. The Spanish-American War of 1898 was supposed to be about Cuba. But when the smoke cleared in Manila Bay and US Admiral Dewey neutralized the Spanish fleet, every empire in the Pacific suddenly noticed the Philippines was in play. Germany noticed loudest. Kaiser Wilhelm II had been building a Pacific empire. And the Philippines, with its deep harbors, 7,000 islands, and strategic position in Asia, was exactly what he wanted. Germany sent Vice Admiral von Diedericks with 5 warships to Manila Bay, a force actually larger than Dewey's. For weeks, German ships shadowed American vessels, ignored American signals, and edged dangerously close to intervening on Spain's side. Dewey confronted them directly. He reportedly told the German admiral that if Germany wanted a confrontation, it could have one right there. The standoff lasted months. Germany eventually withdrew and purchased the Carolines and Mariana Islands from a weakened Spain instead. Your country was not a transaction. Germany settled for the consolation prize. But here is what should make your blood run cold. Imperial powers were negotiating over your islands like items on a menu. Nobody consulted a single Filipino. Your country was a prize to be claimed, not a people to be respected, and still, no foreign government ever held it permanently. Picture Philippine jeepneys rolling down EDSA decorated in Bavarian blue and white diamonds, blasting oompa music at full volume. Salamat naman at hindi nangyari. The Philippines endured and kept its jeepney. Germany today is one of the EU's largest economies. Philippine-German trade and OFW remittances from Germany form a quiet but growing relationship that matters in 2026. The next country didn't lurk outside your harbor. They worked inside your politics, supported internal insurgencies, and tried to pull your country in an entirely different direction. Number 7. Russia. They spent decades trying to draw your country away from the Western alliance, and analysts note that in 2026, they have not entirely given up. After World War II, Soviet strategy across Asia was straightforward. Identify nationalist movements, support internal insurgencies, and peel countries away from American influence. The Philippines, with its significant US military presence at Clark Air Base and Subic Bay, was one of Moscow's highest priority targets in Southeast Asia. From the 1950s through the 1980s, Soviet intelligence reportedly channeled support toward the Communist Party of the Philippines and the New People's Army, fueling an internal conflict that cost thousands of Filipino lives and destabilized successive governments for 4 decades. The Soviet collapse in 1991 paused that chapter. Briefly, when Rodrigo Duterte became president in 2016, Moscow saw a new opening. The Russian government offered the Philippines Mi-17 military helicopters, weapons packages, and even submarines, deals reportedly worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The broader strategic goal, defense analysts observed, was to create distance in the Philippine-American alliance. According to Philippine government records, Duterte personally visited Moscow in 2017, the first Philippine president ever to do so, returning with commitments for military hardware that were largely unfulfilled before his term concluded. Here is what history makes clear. Your country never deployed forces to Russia, never threatened a single Russian city. For decades, it served as a theater for a geopolitical competition it never chose. And ordinary Filipino families paid that price in instability, in lives, in communities torn apart by a conflict they never started. Para kang kapitbahay na hindi mo sinaktan, pero siya ang laging naglalagay ng chismis sa barangay. Classic Russia, smiling at the gate while stirring trouble inside. In 2026, Russia's active influence in the Philippines is limited. Its campaign in Ukraine has strained its resources and regional credibility, though geopolitical analysts note its intelligence presence across Southeast Asia has not vanished. The next country is not from the other side of the world. It shares your region, and the dispute between you has never been formally resolved. Number 6. Malaysia. Your closest neighbor quietly holds a piece of land your country has never stopped claiming, and the full story of how that happened is not simple. Sabah, the northern portion of the island of Borneo, was leased to the British North Borneo Chartered Company in 1878 by the Sultan of Sulu, whose domain was historically connected to the Philippine archipelago. When Malaysia was established in 1963, it incorporated Sabah without resolving the Philippine claim. According to Philippine government positions maintained consistently since 1962, the Philippines has never formally relinquished its claim over Sabah. That position is on record across multiple Philippine government documents and international proceedings. And here is the part that carries lasting weight. According to Philippine government records and multiple historical accounts, the Jabita incident of 1968, in which Filipino Muslim military recruits allegedly trained for a covert Sabah-related mission were killed, became one of the most painful and politically consequential events in modern Philippine history. Historians and analysts note that it accelerated separatist sentiment in Mindanao for generations and contributed to the formation of the Moro National Liberation Front. Malaysia's involvement in Mindanao peace negotiations in subsequent decades has been both genuinely constructive and strategically self-interested. A neighbor managing regional stability by managing your south. Your country never moved against Malaysia, never took Malaysian territory. Yet Sabah, home to hundreds of thousands of people with deep roots in the Sulu archipelago, remains, according to Philippine government positions, an unresolved territorial question. It is a bit like your neighbor claiming your Salaset because their Lolo rented it once. Akin na yan, said no Filipino, ever, peacefully. In 2026, Malaysia and the Philippines remain ASEAN partners with active diplomatic ties. The Sabah question, according to official Philippine positions, is unresolved, and it will not disappear quietly. The next country is perhaps the most emotionally complex on this entire list, a former occupier that is now one of your most critical security partners. Number 5. Japan. They brought your country to its knees in the darkest chapter of the 20th century. Today, the Japanese government is helping you stand against a new challenge. On December 8, 1941, hours after Pearl Harbor, Japanese forces entered the Philippines. What followed was 3.5 years of occupation that historians rank among the most devastating in all of Asian history. The Bataan Death March alone cost thousands of Filipino and American prisoners their lives through starvation, brutality, and exhaustion. The Battle of Manila in 1945 left the city in ruins and claimed over 100,000 Filipino civilian lives, one of the gravest urban tragedies of the entire war. Japanese forces occupied every major island. Filipino women were subjected to sexual slavery as comfort women. A documented historical injustice that historians and advocates note has never received full acknowledgement or reparation from the Japanese government. Communities were destroyed. Families were torn apart. Your country emerged from the occupation in ruins and then rebuilt with almost nothing. Here is the truth that history demands. The Philippines never initiated hostilities against Japan, never deployed forces to Hiroshima. It was occupied, subjected to enormous suffering, and left to rebuild from rubble. That it came back, that it recovered and endured, is not just survival. That is something close to extraordinary. Now here is the part that will genuinely surprise you. Japan's government today delivers Coast Guard vessels, surveillance aircraft, and advanced defense equipment to the Philippines. In 2026, a reciprocal access agreement, the first Japan has signed anywhere in Asia, allows each country's forces to operate on each other's soil. The government that once occupied Manila is now among those helping to defend it. It's like your toughest barkada from high school, the one who gave you the worst week of your life. Growing up and showing up when things get serious. Buhay talagang history, hindi siya natapos sa libro. The next entry didn't come for 3 years. They came for more than 3 centuries, and you can still hear them in every church bell that rings on a Sunday morning. Number 4. Spain. They governed your country for 333 years, reshaped your identity from the ground up, and left a mark so deep you are still living inside it today. Ferdinand Magellan arrived in 1521 and was met by Lapu-Lapu, which tells you everything you need to know about the Filipino spirit from the very beginning. Spain's formal colonization began in 1565, when Miguel López de Legazpi established the first permanent Spanish settlement in Cebu, then relocated the capital to Manila in 1571. From that year until 1898, 333 years, Spain governed the Philippines through military authority, the Catholic Church, and a barangay administrative system that still shapes how your government functions today. What Spain did was total and lasting. They built hundreds of churches, many still standing as UNESCO World Heritage Sites. They imposed Spanish surnames on the entire Philippine population through the Catálogo Alfabético de Apellidos. In 1849, which is why your last name today is likely Reyes, Santos, Cruz, or Garcia. They established universities, hospitals, and a centralized colonial administration. They also extracted substantial wealth through the Manila galleon trade, which made this city one of the most prosperous ports in all of Asia. Your ancestors responded in 1896 through the Katipunan, through Andres Bonifacio, through a revolution that ultimately ended 333 years of colonial rule. Your people did not choose Spain. They endured it, then pushed back across generations, and finally prevailed. 300 years in a convent, and Filipinos came out knowing how to throw the best fiesta in Asia, cook the most glorious lechon on earth, and still find time for a 9-day novena. The Spanish missionaries changed many things. They did not change the tabo. In 2026, Spain's cultural presence remains everywhere, in the church, your surnames, your fiestas, your legal traditions. As a European Union member, Spain is today a respectful and minor diplomatic partner of the Philippines. The next country also arrived with a promise of liberation and stayed for nearly 50 years. Number 3, the United States. They arrived as liberators in 1898, governed for 48 years, signed a transfer of sovereignty, and never fully stepped back. After the Spanish-American War, Spain transferred the Philippines to the United States for $20 million in the Treaty of Paris, without consulting a single Filipino. The Philippine-American War that followed from 1899 to 1902 and continued as armed resistance until 1913 resulted in an estimated 200,000 to 600,000 Filipino civilian deaths through combat, disease, and deliberate food denial campaigns. The American government called it pacification. Your ancestors called it what it was. American governance left a complicated legacy. The US built public schools across the archipelago, sending teachers called Thomasites on a ship. English became your second language and your ticket to global opportunity. A democratic system of government was introduced, however imperfect. The Philippine Commonwealth was established in 1935, with Manuel Quezon as its first president, with independence formally transferred on July 4, 1946. Independence, though, did not mean a complete departure. The US maintained large military installations at Clark and Subic until 1992. Today, the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement gives American forces access to 9 Philippine military sites, including positions in Cagayan and Palawan, oriented toward the South China Sea. In 2026, joint US-Philippine military exercises are running at their highest frequency in decades. The Mutual Defense Treaty remains the cornerstone of Philippine security. Your country never asked to be governed by Washington. It fought back in one of history's most overlooked conflicts. And today, it chooses this alliance on its own terms, as a sovereign nation. 50 years of American influence, and Filipinos still say pork for fork, still call every shopping center the mall, and still line up for Jollibee over any American burger. Colonial hangover, maybe. But that loyalty to the chicken joy is purely, proudly Aten. In 2026, the US and the Philippines conduct joint patrols in the West Philippine Sea. The relationship carries tension, but it remains the most important security alliance your country maintains. What comes next is not a historical colonizer. It is newer, quieter, and in many respects more consequential than anything that came before it. Number 2, India. They never governed your country, never challenged your waters, and in 2025 provided your military with the most capable weapon system it has ever fielded. India and the Philippines have no history of conflict. No contested waters, no colonial wounds between them. For most of Philippine history, India was simply a distant, friendly civilization, a source of shared cultural influences through ancient trade, a democracy with familiar values, a country where thousands of OFWs have built their careers and lives. That relationship shifted quietly, and then decisively. As the Chinese government's assertiveness in the West Philippine Sea intensified through 2023 and 2024, with water cannon deployments against Philippine resupply missions, laser incidents targeting Philippine vessels, and documented physical interference with Filipino sailors at Ayungin Shoal, the Philippines urgently sought to strengthen its defensive posture. India stepped forward when others were slower to act. In 2025, India delivered the first batch of BrahMos supersonic cruise missiles to the Philippines, making your country the first export recipient of what defense analysts describe as the fastest and most capable anti-ship missile system in Southeast Asia. The BrahMos travels at nearly 3 times the speed of sound. it can engage targets 300 kilometers away. The agreement, valued at approximately $375 million, gives the Philippine military a credible deterrent capability against any naval force operating in the West Philippine Sea. Your country negotiated this capability, funded it, and deployed it. That is what a sovereign nation securing its own waters looks like. India giving the Philippines a supersonic missile is like your kuya coming home from abroad with the greatest balikbayan box in history. Except instead of chocolate and spam, it's a weapon that can stop a warship. Best pasalubong ever. In 2026, a second BrahMos battery is under active negotiation. Defense analysts now classify India as a Tier 1 security partner for the Philippines, a development that would have seemed unlikely just 10 years ago. You have waded through 9 entries. Now comes the one your instincts already named. Now comes number 1, and it is not ancient history. It is unfolding right now while you watch this. Number 1, China. And if everything you have heard so far concerned you, what comes next deserves the full attention of every Filipino alive today. No country on this list governed your nation for centuries like Spain. No government engaged your country in a prolonged land conflict like the United States or Japan. But geopolitical analysts in 2026 warn that no country on this list is exerting pressure on the Philippines across as many dimensions simultaneously as China in your seas, your economy, your political landscape, and according to documented reports, inside your land. Start with the West Philippine Sea. The 9-dash line, China's unilateral maritime claim drawn in defiance of international law, effectively erases your country's exclusive economic zone. The International Tribunal at the Law of the Sea ruled decisively in the Philippines' favor in 2016. The Chinese government called it a piece of paper and continued its activities. Today, Chinese-built artificial structures in the Spratly chain host military-grade runways, radar arrays, and missile systems positioned inside waters your country has every legal right to fish, develop, and call its own. Chinese Coast Guard vessels have repeatedly deployed water cannons against Philippine resupply missions to Ayungin Shoal, where a small contingent of Filipino Marines maintains a post aboard the deliberately grounded BRP Sierra Madre to assert your country's sovereign presence. In documented incidents throughout 2023 and 2024, those water cannons were directed at Filipino sailors carrying food and medicine. Defense observers note this reflects a deliberate policy of sustained pressure, not isolated incidents. But here is where it reaches closer to home. Gising KO. Because the concern does not stop at the waterline. Philippine intelligence assessments and investigative journalists have documented attempts by entities with reported links to Chinese interests to acquire agricultural land near strategic facilities, establish commercial footholds in sensitive locations, and gain political access through infrastructure financing and institutional relationships. Historical analysts note that the infrastructure loan commitments of the previous administration were structured in ways that created economic dependency rather than genuine development. Most were subsequently renegotiated or set aside. Chinese offshore gaming operations, POGOs, brought tens of thousands of foreign nationals into the Philippines during the Duterte years. Philippine law enforcement described numerous compounds as centers of illegal activity, with reported links to espionage networks and human trafficking operations. The Philippine Congress banned POGOs entirely in 2024. But influence networks built across years do not dissolve because a law changes. And then there is the information dimension. Philippine journalists and security analysts have documented coordinated online operations designed to amplify voices favorable to Beijing, reduce the visibility of West Philippine Sea reporting, and create the impression of domestic division on sovereignty questions. When credible, polling consistently shows overwhelming Filipino support for defending their territorial rights. Here is the historical truth that every Filipino deserves to sit with. Your country never claimed a single meter of Chinese territory, never deployed vessels into Chinese waters. It pursued its case through international law, and it won. The Chinese government's response was to set aside that ruling, sustain its territorial pressure, and pursue economic and political influence through every available channel. This is not 1898. This is 2026. This is happening while your fishermen are kept from their own fishing grounds, while your sailors face water cannons in your own sea, and while you watch this video. The Pearl of the Orient was never for sale. Not to Spain, not to America, not to Japan. Your ancestors held this country through 5 centuries of external pressure. The defining question of this generation the one that will determine what your children inherit, is whether you will honor what they protected or allow it to erode not through force but through silence and inattention. Huwag hayaang mangyari yun. Your country is worth more than that. It always has been. Pearl of the Orient. That is where we started, because that is exactly what this country has always been to the world. Something rare, something worth pursuing, something powerful nations have never stopped wanting to influence. 10 empires across 5 centuries came for this archipelago. Not one of them broke it. Today, the most serious challenge does not arrive with warships alone. It comes with financing, contracts, infrastructure agreements, and coordinated influence. And geopolitical analysts point to China as its primary source in 2026. Your most powerful response is awareness. Your strength is unity. Vote for leaders who defend your seas, your sovereignty, and your dignity, without hesitation and without being compromised. If this showed you something about your country you never knew, share it with one Filipino family today. Because the Philippines has survived every empire. But only an aware, united Filipino people can make sure it survives this one.